So you've got 1 weekend in Belgrade. Is that enough time to see everything? No, it's definitely not. But I've got a plan to maximize your time, and I'll give you a bunch of options so you can customize it to what you want to see. And on top of what I think is the general perfect plan for 1 weekend in Belgrade, I'll give you some secrets that most tourists miss out on. So if you're here for a weekend, I'm assuming you flew in on Friday night. And my perfect option for a Friday night in Belgrade, I'd come out and party on the Splavs. If you want a more family-friendly option, I've got one in a little bit. But Belgrade is one of those places, it's one of the party capitals of Europe, and it deserves it. Serbians party, and it's awesome. If you come out to the Splavs, they used to be in the middle of town, kind of right next to Kalemegdan on the waterfront, but now they've moved a little bit upriver on the Sava. So you're gonna go a little bit south of the city, past the waterfront, and you'll hit the Splavs. This is my ideal Friday night if you have 1 weekend in Belgrade. Some of the Splavs, like Plavi Schlep right here behind me, the blue boat, are old, and they're more like a kafana on the water. You'll get some great food. You'll probably meet some great people if you're interested. Serbs are very friendly. So if you just go a little bit out of your way, you're gonna make some friends. But some of the Splavs are like brand new kind of party boat style. And as some evidence for how hard Serbs party, right here you can see 2 of these that are kind of brand newish. In the background is Gatsby there, and they're gonna have like all kinds of different music. So I would go down the row and just look for the kind of music that you want to party to, and that's the Splav I would get in. But you can see right here in the foreground, we've got the cartel. Typically this happens on those really big party nights, like New Year's is the big one. But yeah, enough people get on the boat, they're all partying, having a good time until the party goes down. You can see even if this happens to you, the river's not deep, so there's no real danger, but it could certainly be alarming. Next time I make it down to the Splavs, this is the one I want to go to, is Zapabarka. I don't know how, I've been here a year and I still haven't made it out to this one, but I have biked by on a Friday or Saturday night, and the music sounds awesome. To get out towards this end of town, you're definitely going to want to take either public transit or a taxi. Public transit in Belgrade is now free as of 2025, but in order to figure out where you're going, I recommend downloading the app Move It. And if you're going to take a taxi, I'm a big fan of downloading the Yandex Go app. It's really easy because you'll pay the taxi in cash, but when you book the ride through the app, it'll tell you about how much you're going to pay. In my experience, they estimate a little bit low, so plan to pay just a couple dollars more than they say. And if you're going to be partying all night in a place like this, you're definitely going to want to get a bite to eat. So I've got a super recommendation. It's one of my favorite places to come get a pizza in Belgrade. It's one of those Splavs that's kind of like a kafana in that it's like old and homey, like a little neighborhood place, except that it's not a kafana at all. We call it Pizza Boat because they serve pizza on the boat. They also have pretty decent tap list of beers, some very friendly, very cool people, and just a really cool culture of a place to hang out. So my recommendation, just upriver from the cartel in Gatsby here, you'll find this little boat that just looks like a chaotic mess. I love it. It's called Brodić. If you come to Brodić, definitely get a pizza. My favorite one is the Srpska pizza, Serbian pizza. It's got some little chili peppers on there. It's fantastic. But I'm sure some of you are gonna want a more family-friendly option. If you want a more family-friendly option for Friday night, you could have come out to Ada Ciganlija. It's like the perfect place to go for a swim, hang out, picnic, maybe grab some rostili, which is like Serbian barbecued meats. It's really fantastic. The 2 most traditional dishes here are pleskavica, which is translated like a hamburger, but it's really like an artisanal hamburger patty without any of the bun or fixings or anything like that. You also could bike out here according to my perfect plan on Sunday. But one of the main reasons I would say to come out here in the evening is right over there, there's Ada Mall. And on the top floor of Ada Mall, it's a fantastic place to catch a sunset. So if you're not super into the Splavs, I would say Friday night, come out to Ada Ciganlija, hang out, have a swim, maybe grab some dinner at the top floor of the mall, watch an awesome sunset, and then gear up for the rest of the weekend. Let me show you around Ada a little bit. The real key at Ada is the ability to sit around and picnic. You can see they have these big, expansive beaches. There are a bunch of places you can sit, order food, order drinks, stuff like that, but there's also a big grocery store nearby called Mega Maxi. And for me, the way to do it, honestly, is stop by Mega Maxi and just get a bunch of picnicky things, and you can sit out on the beach. There are like outdoor freshwater showers, so you can rinse yourself off afterwards. It's a super rad place. And you can see there are a bunch of things to do for the kids if you want to sign up and go do things like that. At one end of the lake in the summer, they even have like a tow rope that's going around in a circle. It has like some jumps and stuff, so you can water ski or wakeboard or whatever. Just a super fun recreational spot. Just like the Splavs, if you want to get out towards this end of town, again, you're either going to want to take public transit or a taxi. And so to figure out public transit, I'm all about download that Move It app. And if you want to take a taxi, it's Yandex Go. So here we are back at the horse again. The horse is an important central piece for my perfect plan for a Saturday, and the reason is it lies right in the middle of a whole bunch of places in Belgrade. If you go one direction behind me, you're gonna go through Old Town and hit the fortress Kalemegdan. And if you go the other direction in front of me, you're gonna hit Skadarlija, the old Bohemian quarter. And if you go over to my right, you're gonna hit the Belgrade Design District. My plan would be hit all of these things on Saturday. But first, depending on how your Friday night went, maybe you wanna sleep in a little, I would eat breakfast at a bakery. The bakeries here are fantastic and they're super cheap. I will show you some of my favorite things to get. They're very Serbian, but I'm gonna show you that in the plan for Sunday, because on Sunday we're gonna hit up one of my favorite bakeries. So you're gonna have to hang on to find out where that's at. Let's go check out some of the stuff you'll see on Saturday. After breakfast at the bakery on Saturday, I would just wander Old Town towards the fortress. It's a beautiful little awesome place to just wander the streets. There's several streets, they kind of cross each other. A couple of them are parallel, but for the most part there's like a big T intersection that follows like these beautiful, beautiful walking streets. So just wander around and end up eventually at the fortress. As you wander, you're gonna find this little fountain. The water, of course, is definitely totally pure and great. Feel free to fill up your water bottles, but right next to it is my favorite spot to recommend stopping. Right back there with like the gold lettering around it is a little bookshop, and it's super awesome. It's well worth a stop, have a coffee, look around for a little bit. If it's too hot out, cool off, and then head down behind me towards the fortress when you're done. As you wander, just stop anywhere. There are an almost infinite number of fun places to stop and look around here, or stop and have a coffee, a beer, and eventually you'll end up at Belgrade Fortress. As you walk through Belgrade Old Town, make sure you look up. There's all kinds of really cool, pretty, ornate things, and there's also spaces that are kind of a little rundown. It's like that whole mess of things, to me, is what makes the magic of Belgrade. Like, if you want everything to be perfect, maybe go to Vienna. But if you want that pretty chaos that's like alive and fun and cool, this is your spot. At the very end of the boardwalk from Old Town, you'll end up just walking across the street and entering Kalemegdan Fortress. It's actually Belgrade Fortress, but it's named Kalemegdan for this massive park that's just outside. So really, when you enter this direction, you're entering kind of the back end of the fortress, and you'll go directly into this park, which is beautiful. There's stuff for kids to play. There's like a dinosaur exhibit if you're interested. There's a military museum. The things to make sure you do not miss are there are two churches that most tourists just cruise right by and don't realize, because they're just outside of the fortress walls down the hill. Also, the fortress gates are gorgeous and well worth checking out. Do not miss them. In that playlist at the end of this video, I do have a Kalemegdan video in there, and I'll show you the way to walk through that you won't miss anything. And since following the perfect plan, you're here on a Saturday, hopefully in the summer, there's often festivals. If you follow that route, you're gonna hit probably some sort of either music or food truck festival, and it's going to be festive and awesome. So coming from this direction, you enter directly into the park. You'll get some of the best views from the fortress, but you do not get the best views of the fortress. So make sure you don't miss out on those views out from the fortress. Check out the gates to the fortress and don't miss out on those churches. And then when you're done and maybe a little bit hungry, we're gonna head over towards Skadarlija. So we'll head over to Skadarlija in just a moment, but I wanted to show you, this is what I mean. When you're on top of this wall, you get these beautiful sweeping views over the top of the river in the city, but you don't get the pretty views of the fortress. So that's kind of gonna be a central piece of my plan for the Sunday, is on Sunday we're gonna get those views going up towards the fortress. And we're actually gonna get views of a couple different fortresses. It's a really beautiful place, and you wanna get both perspectives, like both from the fortress looking out towards the city, and then from the river looking up towards the fortress. If you want the best views, you just gotta hang on for a little bit. I'll show you. This end of the fortress, I think, has the prettiest gates to walk through. It has like that big drawbridge. It's really beautiful, and those churches are just down the hill from here. You can see the inside of the fortress is just kind of like this massive, expansive park. And on this end of the fortress is Victor's Monument. There's some really pretty gates right below Victor's Monument as well. And you can see this is kind of that expansive view going over the city from the fortress that you'll get. There's a reason this is the #1 tourist spot in Belgrade. It's beautiful. And this is Skadarlija. Skadarlija is the historical Bohemian quarter of Belgrade. So if you do the walking tour through here, you're gonna talk a lot about like artists and poets and creatives. There's gonna be stories of love and love lost. It's definitely fun, and I do recommend the free walking tours of Belgrade. Make sure you tip your guide, they're awesome. This is also one of the places that if you don't have time to find a kafana that's in a more reasonable part of the city, you're gonna pay a little bit more here because we're in like tourist central Belgrade. But there are a few really great kafanas. One of them is right here, Dva Jelena. Skupština. You can ask them for recommendations on what to order and they'll tell you some awesome things. Serbian food is amazing, and so if you come here and eat Italian or something, you're seriously missing out. On top of eating at a kafana here in Skadarlija, the other things that are really great is I would definitely stop somewhere for a coffee, hang out, again, meet some locals. Everyone here is super friendly. They'll be absolutely glad to talk with you. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, both in scenery and in culture. So here in Skadarlija, definitely walking tour, food, drinks, all fun things. And on the mention of drinks, there's coffee, of course, like I was saying, but there's also a really awesome place up here to get craft beers. If you want cocktails, I would send you to a different direction from the horse. You can look up Hotel Moskva. It's like swanky Art Nouveau old hotel. It's super, super great. But if you want craft beers, right here in the center of Belgrade, this is gonna be the spot, the Dogma Craft Beer Station. They don't open until 5 o'clock every day, so you are gonna make sure that you're here at the right time. And if instead you'd like to drink something local, I would go to the kafanas for it. But right here across the street, you're gonna find this place, Drink Like a Serbian. They are talking about Šljivovic or rakia. Rakia is like fruit brandy. It's super strong. I personally have a lot of trouble with it, but it's worth trying out. And it is beloved all over the Balkans. Šljivovic is specifically plum liquor. Here in Serbia, they have some of the most prolific plum crops in the world. And so it's just super famous. And it's a fun thing to do. If you meet some people, just buy a round of rakia. Everyone will absolutely love you for it. Other awesome things to make sure you hit up on Saturday are do not miss out on Sava Temple. And when you go, make sure you go downstairs to the crypt. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm not going to head there in this video, but I will give you a link to that playlist. One of those videos is on Sava Temple and another one on the crypt. And if you have time, Belgrade Design District is a fun place to hang out. There's another video I'll give you at the end in that playlist. So that's Saturday. On Sunday for the perfect plan, my recommendation is get up early-ish and rent bikes. One of the reasons, you could walk down to where I am right now and you can see the views from down here at the waterfront looking up at the fortress are much better than the views in the fortress. I mean, the views in the fortress get those big sweeping views over the city. Another reason I'm all about renting bikes here in Belgrade is there are these beautiful bike paths that go all up and down the river. I will give the warning, if you are biking through the city, there are some bike paths, but they don't really have the culture of biking here. So pedestrians will wander in and out of the bike paths. Sometimes they're just hanging out, playing on their phone, waiting for the bus, standing in the middle of the bike path. I would just be very careful and go slowly if you ride your bikes through the city. I would just come straight down to the waterfront, and personally, I would not leave the waterfront. So the first thing you'll get is these beautiful views of Kalemegdan Fortress if you rent bikes here in the center. And you can take the bike path around that direction, you'll get a lot more beautiful views. But my recommendation is we're gonna go down to Brankov Most or Brankov's Bridge, and we're gonna go across to the new Belgrade side. You're gonna be riding through these sweeping, huge parks. There's Splavs everywhere if you wanna stop and get a drink or a bite to eat, and eventually you end up in a little town called Zemun that is special. The other options on a bike are if you go the other direction upriver on the Sava, you have beautiful bike trails all the way through the Belgrade waterfront, which is kind of like a new money district of Belgrade that's been built. It's like sparkling new and beautiful fun. If you go past that, eventually you end up at the Splavs on this side of the river, and then past that you end up at Ada Lake. So there's a lot that's accessible just riding these bike paths along the river, and I'm a huge fan of it. So let's head over Brankov's Most. We're gonna go over to the new Belgrade side, and I'm gonna show you what riding your bike over on that side is like. And when we end up in Zemun, I'm gonna show you my favorite bakery in Belgrade. Sunday morning, this is where I would have breakfast. So this is the view when you're crossing Brankov's Most. It's the closest most to Kalemegdan, so it's kind of easy to find, and there's a bike elevator up to the top. Just shows you the total difference between Belgrade and New Belgrade. Sunday morning, you're up early, rented bikes. If you want to know the way to get over here, you can check out in that playlist my video biking very different parts of Belgrade. We end up in Zemun and I show you the entire way. There's like a bike elevator you can use to get on the top of Brankov's Most. It's worth knowing the route before you leave. Once you get over here, one of the first things you get is one of my favorite views of Kalemegdan Fortress. It's really, really stunning and beautiful from over here. You see how big the fortress really is, and you see what fortresses were through the last eras that it was updated. It's like super crazy old. Belgrade is like almost prehistoric city. And so I think when the Romans arrived, there was already like some sort of fortifications here, and of course the Romans built onto it, and then every empire to come through since has also added onto it. As you ride on this side of the river, you'll ride through this insanely massive park. And you can see just a piece of it here. The bike path is on top of that knoll up behind me. This park is so big on the new Belgrade side that you'll be biking through it. Like if you go straight through, it's probably going to take you 15 minutes. But also it's much nicer to just mosey on through. And there's some Splavs on the way. If you're interested in stopping and having a bite or a drink, great. My ideal way to do it, I would mosey straight through all the way to Zemun to get breakfast at the bakery, and then on your way back I might stop to get a coffee or a drink or another bite to eat on a Splav somewhere. And a bonus from this side of the river, Here's another sunken splav. I told you, people here know how to party. It's a little bit crazy and totally awesome. Since my recommendation is so strongly that you should ride bikes, I just wanted to show you why. This is just a little clip of how beautiful it is to ride bikes all over this huge park. Trails on both sides of the river are really beautiful and well done. For me personally, I like the trails and the parks and everything, the views better from the New Belgrade side. And there is no better way to head out towards Zemun. Zemun's another one of those kind of must-do things that's just great. And as long as you're gonna head out there, I feel like you just might as well go on a bike. It's the best. You know you're arriving to Zemun when you've kind of popped out of that big park and you end up right on the riverside. You see all of these boats parked on the river, and then you end up on this big boardwalk that just goes along the river. You do have to slow down a bit because now you're weaving through the people, but it's just a great little spot to mosey through. It's really beautiful. As a bonus, you'll probably see a bunch of swans if you're here in the summer. And just like that, we leave the massive park and the big concrete buildings of New Belgrade, and we get into the red tiled roofs of Zemun. This little city is awesome. It used to be a separate city from Belgrade, but as Belgrade's grown, it kind of encompassed Zemun, and now it's technically a municipality of Belgrade. But if you ask people from Zemun if they're from Belgrade, they will correct you and say, no, I'm a Zemuner. You can see there's this market that's open a lot of the year. It's awesome, really fun place to just stroll around and look at things. There are a lot of pretty streets here to stroll around, and there's a big Catholic church. I'm sure you know Serbia is largely Orthodox, so it's a little bit uncommon. It's the only place in Belgrade that I've heard church bells. Personally, I really love the Orthodox churches. I have no attachment to the Catholic Church other than church bells. I do love hearing church bells. Also, if you head up the hill in Zemun, you're going to get to Gardos Tower, which I think has the best view in Belgrade. So I'll take you up there, we'll check out that view, I'll tell you what we're looking at a little bit, and then when we come back down to the square, I'm going to take you to my favorite bakery and we're going to check out what you should get for breakfast. But first, let's head up to Gardos Tower. Gardos Tower itself is beautiful. It was built by the Austro-Hungarians, so it's kind of like where Belgrade Fortress is this super old fortress. Then there's that era where the Austro-Hungarians and the Ottomans are kind of fighting and going back and forth and taking and losing land throughout all of this area around Serbia and the Balkans. And so the confluence of the rivers here was kind of one of the natural boundaries that occurred often between those two empires. This is part of why Gardos Tower looks so different than a lot of the rest of the architecture here. Because a lot of the architecture is just like old and it was built in different eras, but Gardos Tower was built by the Austro-Hungarian in that really garish type of architecture. It's awesome, I love it. But the real key why you come up here are these views over the top of the city and the rivers. You really get this perspective of how Zemun has that old like red tiled roof style, and then you get that view going over towards New Belgrade. You can see those concrete towers that were built in the Yugoslav period. There's also a really beautiful Orthodox church up here, and it might be a little weird, but I love cemeteries, and there's a big beautiful cemetery up here too. You can pay to go up to like a viewing platform in Gardos Tower, but you can also just walk past Gardos Tower and you can see that one area that was like an old turret in the old wall just has this wide open sweeping view. This to me is the best view in Belgrade. That view from Gardos Tower is amazing. In my book, the best in Belgrade. Definitely worth a trip out over here, and bikes is the way to do it. So back down here at the square, you can see behind me is the Catholic Church, and right here on the corner, there is Pekara Petrovich. It's Petrovich Bakery. This place is legit. When you go, I mean, get whatever looks good to you. It's all gonna be great. I'm gonna get some burek. Burek is super common here in Serbia, and there's usually a cheese and a meat version, sometimes multiple meat versions. But whatever you get, any of it, make sure you get a yogurt to go with it. Yogurt and pastries together here is awesome. In part because oftentimes the pastries are like a little bit greasy and salty, and then with the yogurt, it calms it down. It's a rad pairing. And then just across the street over there, there's a place called Coffee Vibes. That's where I would get my coffee if you're over here in the morning. Here we go, Pekara Petrovich. I went with the cheese burek. I'm super excited about it. So if I show you, you can see what I'm talking about. It's like a little bit greasy. The cheese is gonna be super salty. But like super melty, buttery, delicious. It's gonna be awesome. It's all of that. It's so good. But if you're gonna eat the whole thing, it's just gonna be a little much. That's why you need the yogurt. You shake it up, just open it a little bit and drink it. The pairing made in heaven. So this is what I would do for breakfast every single day that you're here. So to recap, for me, perfect weekend. Friday night, Splavs or Ada Lake. Saturday, you're gonna do all the things downtown. Make sure you go to Old Town, hit up Kalemegdan Fortress, go to Skadarlija and check it out, and do not miss out on Sava Temple. Every morning, make sure you eat some great baked goods from the bakery. And then in the evenings, I'm all about make sure you go hit up those kafanas, or at least try some Serbian rostili. Then Sunday, rent bikes, ride around, come to the New Belgrade side, get those beautiful views. Do not miss out on Gardos Tower because you get the best view in Belgrade. And then on the way back, I'd hit up some more Splavs if you got time. But you might want some different options. So right here, I got a whole bunch of options for you. Avala Tower is not that far away from Belgrade. It's a little bit of a ride on the bus. I probably wouldn't take a taxi because it's just too far. But it's the tallest building, I think, in the Balkans. Definitely the tallest building in Serbia. You get some awesome views. Sometimes there's like festival-ish type of stuff going on around Avala Tower. And there's also the Monument to the Unknown Hero out there. There are also some museums if you're into that. You could check out the Nikola Tesla Museum, and there's a Yugoslav Museum. Has a whole bunch of things about what it was like to live in Yugoslavia during that period. And then also a bunch of things about Tito, who's a super fascinating world leader that you probably don't know that much about. It's definitely worth checking out if you're into those museums. And if you want something different to do on Sunday, there are horse races in Belgrade, so you could look into that if they're going on when you're here. It's worth checking out. It's fun. It's free to get in, and it's definitely a fun day. Also, if you just want to know the best place to check out drinks, well, I have videos about all of these things in this playlist on the screen here. Some of them have different names, so I'll put a key on the screen right now, and you can see what video has which things. Whatever feels like your jam, check it out. I know for certain you will enjoy your time here. Make sure you meet some people, and make sure you eat great food.